Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Geek Gossip Podcast. I'm Artie and this is a podcast where we talk about movies, comics, and all things geek. Today, on this video, I'm going to be reaching a question that is debated by a lot of people that is commonly split up into top 10 lists, top 5 lists, whatever, and that is, who are the greatest heavy metal bands of all time? Now, I have my personal thoughts on this, and I thought it would be cool if I made a whole top 10 ranking going through each band that I think deserves their spot on this list, and to spice it up a little bit, I'll be playing a riff on the guitar from each one. Let's get into it. Off of this list, I thought I would spend some time to appreciate what most people consider the greatest glam metal band of all time, and that is Motley Crue. Though not quite as heavy as anything else on this list, I thought they were worthy of a spot because of their influence, lasting power, and killer riffs. Selling 100 million albums worldwide with 6 top 20 pop hits, it's easy to say this band has reached mainstream success, and that counts for a lot when it comes to metal bands. Their 1989 album, Dr. Feelgood, produced by Bob Rock, who would later go on to produce Metallica's smash hit Black Album in 1991, reached number 1 and still remains popular to this day. They're even successful enough to be touring arenas worldwide with other glam metal acts such as Poison and Def Leppard. So it's really cool to see a band like Motley Crue, who had their heyday in the 80s, but there's also new generations getting into their music, like me, and that's why I thought they deserved this number 10 spot. Number 9, I put one of the most weirdest, wackiest, and absolutely hilarious bands on this ranking, Tenacious D. Heavy metal has had so many overclassified subgenres, each one trying to draw new elements into metal, but what the D did is the most creative in my eyes. Or would it be ears? You gotta hand it to Tenacious D for at the start of their career combining metal, comedy, and acoustic guitars. Some merely just view the D as metal with funny, vulgar lyrics, but I view them as real acoustic metal. Though before the D, metal bands would take out an acoustic guitar every once in a while to make a slow, epic masterpiece like Iron Maiden's Children of the Damned or Metallica's Fade to Black. But no one really ever did that fast metal-type rhythms on acoustic guitars like Kyle Gass and Jack Black did in Tenacious D. And Tenacious D even will use both acoustic and electric guitars commonly, which makes their case more for being recognized as a heavy metal band. Like, how can you hear Beelzebub's The Final Showdown, Master Exploder, and the metal and say that the D isn't, well, the metal? After seeing the band live back in September of 2022, I had a whole new appreciation for them. So just for their energy, creativity, Artie, and also for the fact that they've never put out a bad album, something you can't say for a lot of bands on this list, I put Tenacious D up here at number 9. Past 20 years or so, few metal bands have found mainstream success, especially with younger audiences in America, like Ghost has. At the same time as having spooky costumes and lore and amazing stage presence, Ghost's actual music is what's most exciting. Live frontman, lead singer, and main songwriter and instrumentalist in the studio, Tobias Forge takes an all-new approach to heavy metal in Ghost, including elements of arena rock, black metal, prog rock, psychedelic rock, and even disco. But overall, Ghost led a whole new generation of metalheads forward, and they had this really cool, unique sound. Not really like much else on this list or metal bands in general, so I feel like they really deserved a spot up here. Black Sabbath was too tricky to place on this list, and I don't know if they really should be on here. Most people consider Black Sabbath as the first ever metal band, the one who strongly influenced so many that we know today, but I view Black Sabbath more as a predecessor, with other bands like Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple who paved the road on the way to heavy metal. Even Thin Lizzy, a greatly underappreciated Irish hard rock band, deserves some recognition. But anyways, after paving the way in Black Sabbath with guitarist Tony Iommi, bassist Geezer Butler, and drummer Bill Ward, singer Ozzy Osbourne left to form a new band, and this one I view as true heavy metal. Though under Ozzy's own name, this was really a band, with the legendary late guitarist Randy Rhoads commonly compared to Eddie Van Halen. They put out one of the biggest metal albums of all time, The Blizzard of Oz. The song Crazy Train from it has over 500 million plays on Spotify. But after Rhoads' terrible and unfortunate death in 1982, Ozzy's band still managed to find great guitarists such as Jake E. Lee from Rat, who wrote Bark at the Moon, and Zakk Wylde, the Viking guy, who appeared on the No More Tears album and later formed metal band Black Label Society. 1987, German heavy metal band Helloween put out the Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 album. Since then, they have gone down in history as one of the most influential European heavy metal bands. With the expert shred guitar leads and solos over complex rhythms more in the thrash direction from guitarist Kai Hansen, Michael Wakeith, and bassist Marcus Grosskopf, also not to forget the excellent, fast, and energetic drumming from the late Ingo Schwarzenberg, and on top of all of that, the epic and melodic singing from the legendary Michael Kiske with an incredible vocal range. A year later, they put out the Keeper Part 2 album, which reached a whole new success. In Germany, it went gold and had pretty decent reception in the US and UK. The Dr. Steen single from this album reached number 57 in the UK, which is excellent for a band like Helloween. Over the years, Helloween's lineup changed many times, but that didn't affect their consistency of putting out great music. Even in the years when Andy Darris replaced Michael Kiske as singer, songs Darris singing were just as good as the older ones, if not better. But the absolute best stuff is from the current lineup, featuring the Keeper of the Seven Keys lineup, plus Andy Darris and guitarist Sasha Gerstner, with Danny Lobel drumming. This band has 3 singers and 3 guitarists now, and it is better than ever. The reason I put Helloween up here, besides from a little personal bias with them being my favorite heavy metal band, was really that not only have they gained recognition as influencing the whole genre of power metal, but they were just really very influential and unique in heavy metal as a whole. They brought in something pretty new. They influenced a whole ton of people and brought a whole new group of bands forward. And so, yeah, that's really why I put them up here. Though commonly labeled as hard rock, I thought Van Halen deserved this number 5 spot for being very influential and having very heavy roots. Hailing from Pasadena, California, the original lineup of the band featured wild singer and frontman David Lee Roth, drummer Alex Van Halen, bassist Michael Anthony, and the real star was virtuoso guitarist Eddie Van Halen. Eddie's double-tapping, dive bombs, ferocious phaser, and wailing wah brought a whole new definition to the word shred. And that is the very reason that I put Van Halen up here, and no, not Van Hagar with the boring power ballad. Van Halen is high up at number 5 because those crazy solos, rhythms, riffs, and random noises on the guitar was something never heard before that's pretty darn metal to me. He brought a whole new voice to the guitar. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. A part of the new wave of British heavy metal, Judas Priest has always been put up on these lists as one of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time. The band has sold over 50 million albums that are very highly praised. I thought my list wouldn't be complete with them near the top. With their guitars as sharp as a knife cutting through the mix, the main thing for me is Rob Halford's vocals. He has such an incredible range, you forget it's all the same guy most of the time, pulling off badass lower, more talking vocals like on Breaking the Law, and also being able to sing a whole song in intense high-pitched vocals like on Painkiller, and then also singing in an awesome mid-range classic rock style with an almost metallic gleam to his voice like on You've Got Another Thing Coming and Living After Midnight. And then also not to mention Electric Eye, on which he switches between the three styles throughout the song. It is crazy. Just really, Judas Priest is such an awesome band. If you haven't really gotten into them yet, I totally recommend it. They were really in that first couple groups of huge heavy metal bands that found excellent success and really they're just really on every single list near the top. After doo-wop band The Red Caps and metal bands Black Sabbath, Rainbow, and Elf, a new band was formed by New Hampshire-born legend who sung of wizards and dragons and revolutionized the devil horn's hand signature, Ronnie James Dio. Dio consisted of Ronnie James Dio singing and Vinny Appice drumming, who left Black Sabbath with Dio. The band also had Jimmy Bryan on bass and Vivian Campbell as their guitarist. Their debut album, Holy Diver, featured heavy metal hits such as Rainbow in the Dark, Stand Up and Shout, and the title track, Holy Diver. Their second album, Last in Line, just being as excellent as the first, released in the magical year of 1984. Had the title track from this one being even better than the last, being about a difficult journey to kill evil witches. It begins calmer with a clean guitar tone and then goes into an epic metal masterpiece. Dio was overall an amazing band. Though no longer with us, Ronnie James Dio will always go down in history as one of the greatest metal musicians of all time. And this band, I view, really just perfectly deserved this number 3 spot. At number 2, I put Metallica and Megadeth. You're probably confused why I put both of them on here, but don't worry, I'll explain. Metallica and Megadeth are the two biggest thrash metal bands, up there with Slayer and Anthrax. The thing is, Metallica first got going with singer and rhythm guitarist James Hetfield, drummer Lars Ulrich, bassist Cliff Burton, and lead guitarist Dave Mustaine. Eventually, they fired Mustaine, who then went on to form his own band, Megadeth, which he also sung in. Over the years, the two bands put out excellent albums that started growing and growing in popularity. But eventually, Metallica broke out with insane mainstream success, and in a lot of people's eyes, pretty much became more of a pop band. I mean, listen to Nothing Else Matters. Can that even be considered rock?
Forever trusting who we are, and nothing else matters.
I don't think so. So, the reason the two share a spot on this list is because some of the main factors in mind are influence/popularity and uniqueness/skill. Metallica checks the first box more, and Megadeth checks the second more. There's not only this, but the two bands have always been linked and compared by fans. Personally, I like Megadeth more. But from a standpoint on who's the definitive best, I have to leave them tied. But really, the two bands' peaks for me would be the Ride the Lightning/Master of Puppets era for Metallica, and the Rust in Peace/Countdown to Extinction era with Megadeth, when they had excellent Marty Friedman on lead guitar. Listening to these albums and the impact they made is what put these bands at number 2. Alright, now here it is, the one you've been waiting for. Who do I think is the greatest heavy metal band of all time? Well, I gotta go with the 6 British kings of heavy metal, Iron Maiden. Over 8 million fans across the globe know and love Iron Maiden, who have sold over 130 million albums, reached number 1 multiple times in over 20 different countries, played 2,500 live shows, and have gone gold and platinum multiple times in the US and the UK. It's not only their massive success that puts them at number one for me, but their revolutionary sound. They're pretty much the pioneers of the British new wave of heavy metal, with bassist Steve Harris as the main songwriter, writing of historical battles and such, using the amazing voice of Bruce Dickinson. When you throw in all the great instrumentals from guitarist Adrian Smith and Dave Murray, as well as drummer Nico McBrayan over that, and of course the bass from Harris, it's a recipe for success. Even their 2 albums before Bruce Dickinson was singer, with Paul Di'Anno, like Killers and their self-titled, even though he's not as great of a singer, I still thought those were awesome. But after that came what was really true legend, like the albums Number of the Beast, Power Slave, and Caught Somewhere in Time, just to name a few. But really, I feel like Iron Maiden is so highly celebrated and appreciated, their success beyond measure, that they are really sitting up here at that number 1 spot for me. But hey, if you disagree with this whole list, agree with this whole list, or have some thoughts, some things that you want to share about this video, be sure to leave a comment and I'll be excited to respond to it. And also remember to smash that like button, that subscribe button, and the bell for notifications so you can find out when the Geek Gossip puts out new videos. We're starting to crank these out more often. We just had an awesome, amazing interview episode with Daniel Warren Johnson. Definitely check that out. Also, our review of the Flash movie and Jack's solo video about the rise and fall of the MCU. All great stuff, and I would love for you to check it out. Check out our website, thegeekgossip.com, and that is about it. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back soon. And remember, the Force will be with you. Always. Stay metal.